So just very broadly, very generally, I think that because of the way that I think it's very engineering minded, I would write essays in a way that was very fact driven. First I did this and then I did that, and I didn't know it at the time, that I didn't even see this as a flaw in my essay strategy, but what I was really missing was kind of how I changed and what I was like before and what I was like after. And instead of describing that in a paragraph, my emotional state or my maturity, and then describing that in another paragraph after, the context, I would spend half the essay just developing context, one line about me, and the other half of the essay describing what happened, and then one line about me, and that was it. And so I got in touch with a friend of mine who graduated from business school in 2007, and he is a filmmaker, he's a storyteller, and so he's helped people with their MBA essays, and particularly people like me, and he would read these essays and say, I don't know anything about you, I don't know what's happened, you sound like a character in a movie, but I don't see that character, and it would be hard for me to realize that the admissions people weren't sitting across from me, they'd never met me, and that I really had to describe myself. And so once that sunk in, I wrote the essays in a completely different way, in a much more kind of touchy-feely, emotional way. A lot of people will look at, take Harvard as a bad example, but look at Harvard and say, okay, I know Harvard likes leadership, so there's 3 or 4 essays for Harvard. There's one that is pretty leadership-centric, the other 2 or 3 are not. And some people will hammer leadership in all 4 of those essays. And at first I was thinking that way too, and how it was explained to me that that's not the best strategy is that every essay is like a different house a different room in a house. And when you're writing these essays, or when you're writing your application, you're building a house. And you don't build a house by building a lot of really good kitchens. You have to build a kitchen, a living room, a dining room, a bedroom, a bathroom, and they're all different. They don't resemble each other. And so these essays have to be very complementary. There's no need for them to hammer in the same point. So, I think UCLA has an essay that says, tell us about your family and your childhood, where you grew up, how that's impacted you. Just be totally honest about, the hardships of your childhood, what you learned from your family, what those values mean to you today. And I think that trying to incorporate leadership, well, when I was a kid, I was the Boy Scouts leader, and talking about that, I don't think that's really going to do a lot of good in the application. I think there's kind of 3 different areas. So number 1 was the academic discipline, so filling in all the management holes, or the holes in my management skill set, both hard and soft. So the organizational behavior class was, I think, a great class for me, just how to deal with people and how to build teams and how to lead organizations. And seeing that in a structured way versus the kind of chaotic approach that had been around me in the past. So really solidifying all those things. I think the other thing was learning from my peers and classmates who were doing all sorts of different amazing things before they came to Haas. And that's been wonderful, because there's people in the Army, there's people who've done a lot of nonprofit, but I think that Haas specifically, we get the type of person who's very humble and who's very open and willing to share without judging the person they're sharing their experience with. And I didn't find that to be as common at other schools. I think the last thing is just being in the Bay Area and being so close to all the amazing startups and venture capital firms, and every week I probably meet a high-level VP from 1 or 2 Bay Area startups that you're reading about on TechCrunch or maybe in the Wall Street Journal even. Consistently every week, at least 1 or 2. We have these amazing speaker series where Marissa Mayer from Google was here talking to a room full of 200 MBA and undergraduate engineering students, and I don't think that really happens at any other school. So being around that, meeting with Haas alumni for informational interviews, and thinking about summer internships is very, very much shaped by the location. So I was a little lucky because I think at Haas specifically we have a kind of a waiver exam schedule. So right before class starts, I think it's 2 days before orientation starts, so before things get too crazy. there's a series of sittings for exams, and so I think out of 6 core classes in the fall, 4 of those are up for being waived from economics, accounting, finance, and statistics. And so luckily I passed the finance exam since I had a little experience in the past. And so that's given me a little bit more flexibility during the second half of this semester when finance would normally be.
Cool.
So I'm a little bit of an exception, but I think overall, you know, the state of mind shouldn't be that you know, I'm an undergraduate and I need to graduate at the top of my class with a 4.0 or else I'll never succeed. You know, we have grade non-disclosure at Haas, which means that companies who are recruiting on campus can't ask you for your grades. And so I think the goal is to really learn the concepts and be able to apply those later on. And if that means you get an A- instead of an A, you know, I'm completely satisfied with that if I can become a better business person and perform better in the future. So I think, you know, not taking everything super seriously matters, and I think also balance. So make time for the gym, make time to go out and drink, and you know, make time to do informational interviews because you can't recoup that time later on. And you know, the marginal opportunity cost of getting an A versus an A- probably doesn't outweigh the benefits of, you know, those other things that you could be doing. So I think it's just balance all around.